Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Payroll Expert Reads W-2 Instructions. Today, we are going to be discussing the general instructions on who must file and how to file. So without any further ado, I will share my screen. All right, so the general instructions for Forms W-2 and W-3. Who must file Form W-2? You must file Form W-2 if you have one or more employees who you made payments, including non-cash payments for the employee's services in your trade or business during 2021. Complete the Form W-2 for each employee for whom any of the following applies, even if the employee is related to you. You withhold any income, Social Security, or Medicare tax from wages, regardless of the amount of wages, or you would have had to withhold income tax if the employee had claimed no more than one withholding allowance for 2019 or earlier Forms W-4, or had not claimed exemption from withholding on Form W-4. And I've talked about this in other videos. I very, very strongly recommend that if you have anybody who is using a Form 2019 or earlier Form W-4, that you have those employees get that form updated so that you are withholding as close to the right amount of federal income tax withholding. And in about 34 states, they will also have to fill out a state W-4 equivalent. So please, I'm going to do another video on some of the state W-4s in a couple weeks. Or you paid $600 or more in wages, even if you didn't withhold any income tax, Social Security, or Medicare tax. So this last one, I know some places get really confused on it. They see that $600 or more in wages and think, well, if I didn't pay somebody $600, then I don't have to send them a W-4. However, you do if you withheld Social Security or Medicare tax, or if they had any withholdings. My recommendation is just, if you have an employee, even if they were an exempt employee or a child employee, your child, you may not have to, according to these instructions, if you paid them $600 or less in wages. I still, if you pay them $1 in wages, issue a W-2. That's just my opinion on it, my thoughts, but the IRS says the IRS says that if you paid $600 or more in wages, even if you didn't withhold any income tax, Social Security, or Medicare tax, you don't have to do a W-2, but my recommendation is to always give a W-2 to every single employee. So only in very limited situations will you not have to file a Form W-2. This may occur if you were not required to withhold any income tax, Social Security tax, or Medicare tax, and you paid the employee less than $600, such as for certain election workers and certain foreign agricultural workers. See election workers and foreign agricultural workers later. Unless otherwise noted, reference Medicare tax, including additional Medicare tax, if you are required to e-file Forms W-2 or want to take advantage of the benefits of e-filing, see e-filing. Who must file a Form W-3? Anyone required to file a Form W-2 must file a Form W-3 to transmit copy A of Forms W-2. Make a copy of Forms W-3, keep it, and copy D for the employer of Forms W-2 with your records for 4 years. Be sure to use the Form W-3 for the correct year. If you are filing Forms W-2 electronically, also see e-filing. Now, the W-3 is basically a cover sheet of all the W-2s that you're submitting. And it's a total of all the wages or all the wages and all the taxes and all the benefits that were withheld for all of the employees being submitted at that time. If you are e-filing, there is no requirement to file a W-3 because the e-file software automatically ties it all together, and you really only need to file a Form W-3 if you are mailing in your W-2s. Household employers. Even employers with only one household employee must file a Form W-3 to transmit copy A of Form W-2. On Form W-3, check the household employee checkbox in box B. For more information, see Schedule H, Form 1040, Household Employment Taxes and its separate instructions. You must have an employer identification number. See box B, employer identification number, EIN. Who may sign Form W-3? A transmitter or sender, including a service bureau, reporting agent, paying agent, or dispersal agent, may sign Form W-3 or use a PIN to e-file for the employer or payee only if the sender satisfies both of the following. 1, it is authorized to sign by agency agreement, whether oral, written, or implied, that is valid under state and law, and it writes for name of payer next to the signature paper Form W-3 only. Caution, use of reporting agent or other third-party payroll service providers does not relieve an employer of the responsibility to ensure that Forms W-2 are furnished to employees and that Forms W-2 and W-3 are filed with the SSA correctly and on time. See penalties for more information. Be sure that the payer's name and EIN on Forms W-2 and W-3 are the same as those used on Form 941. Employer's quarterly federal tax return, Form 943, the employer's annual federal tax return for agricultural employees, Form 944, employer's annual federal tax return, Form CT1, employer's annual railroad retirement tax return, or Schedule H, Form 1040, filed by or for the payer. When to file. Mail or electronically file copy A of Forms W-2 and W-3 with the SSA by January 31st, 2022. You may owe a penalty for each Form W-2 that you file late. See penalties. If you terminate your business, see terminating a business. Extensions of time to file Form W-2 with SSA. Now, this might be important because since we are recording this after January 31st, 2022. So any returns that get filed from February 1st till whenever are going to be late. And a civil penalty is generally issued, but that is issued by the IRS and not SSA. And we'll discuss those in another recording and not this one. Extension of time to file Form W-2 with the SSA. You may request only one extension of time to file Form W-2 with the SSA by submitting a complete application on Form 8809, application of extension of time to file information returns. When completing the Form 8809, indicate that at least one of the criteria on the form and instructions for granting extensions apply. You must sign the application under penalty of perjury. So make sure that if you're checking one of the criteria that it really does apply, because anytime you have to sign something under penalty of perjury is a pretty big deal. and there can be civil or criminal charges if the information is not correct. Send the application to the address shown on Form 8809. You must request the extension before the due date of Forms W-2. If the IRS grants your return for extension, you will have an additional 30 days to file. Now, we all know that the IRS is behind, so chances are of knowing if a request for extension has been approved or not is not going to happen within 30 days. And the IRS will only grant extensions to file Forms W-2 only in limited cases for extraordinary circumstances or catastrophes such as natural disaster or fire destroying the books and records needed for filing the forms. No additional extensions of time to file will be allowed. So say you can't just apply for an extension to file a Form W-2 because I didn't know I had to. That's not a good reason. Or I didn't use payroll software. I don't know what I'm doing. Also not a good reason. So here's a caution. Even if you request and are granted an extension of time to file Forms W-2, you still must furnish Forms W-2 to your employees by January 31st. But see extension of time to furnish W-2s to employees. And I know a lot of employees will be very, very, very unhappy if they do not get their W-2s by January 31st or postmarked by January 31st, even though they should not be filing their taxes before they get their W-2. Some do. I don't need to tell any of the tax preparers watching this what happens, because they know better than I do what happens when a tax return that is filed is incorrect. So thank you guys all for joining me today, and join in or tune in later for more information on Forms W-2. And we're going to also be reading the instructions for 941, 941X, and 940, and talking about some of the other W-4s of that you have to file for states that don't follow the federal, the new federal guidelines for the W-4. And if you watched my video on the tax withholding calculator, that is up and running now. I didn't see that it was running on Thursday, but on Friday, February 4th, I did see that it was back up. So definitely, if you find value in these videos, share them, like them, comment on them, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so that you get alerted when we're doing these the lives